is Jasmine Murillo. I'm a junior at the High School of the Academy of Arts, Careers, and Technology. This year I will be competing in the Early Childhood Education STAR event. To start off my project, I would like to go over the planning process of what it took for this project. The first point I would like to talk about is identifying my concerns. The main concern of making this project would be that even though I am on the right path educationally for this future career, I feel like I would lack in skills. Even though I have some hands-on experience for this job, I feel like I need more knowledge and more experience with it. For that, during this project, I have set myself a goal, making sure that I am capable of teaching others. And for that, I've also prepared a plan. Throughout this whole project, I plan to document my experiences and my occupational work for this career, give examples of some of my lesson plans, show evidence of my skills, and show evidence of my developmental knowledge for this career. To begin, I would first document my experiences I have with this career so far. I have been able to volunteer at my pre-K program that we have at my school. There I have been observing and watching students and interacted with them, and I've helped them learn different simple skills needed to advance to kindergarten. I have also gotten the opportunity to volunteer at a program in the district called Team Up, and there I would help students complete their homework and assignments, kind of like a tutor, and I would also interact with them and play with them. And I have also completed one course of teaching and training where I've learned many different types of methods and styles of teaching, along with the history of education. I have also completed a human development course as well, where I learned the development of childbirth and grown adulthood. And it has been really eye-opening to me because it has helped me learn more about the development of children, which I need to work with them. Continuing on, I would like to talk about some of my lesson plans. The first one being identify that shape. This targets second grade, and the objectives for this lesson plan would be that students can identify a shape solely on a number of given attributes, and students can correctly draw shapes having been given a list of attributes. This goes off of the standards of recognizing and drawing shapes having specified attributes, such as given numbers of angles or a given number of equal faces. And in the standards, it gives 3 examples of these shapes: triangles, quadrilaterals, pentagons, hexagons, and cubes. The materials needed for this would be a whiteboard, a dry erase marker, an answer sheet, and an exit ticket worksheet. So basically, in this lesson plan, I will begin by having the students gather around and introduce the topic of shapes. And I will ask the students to tell me what their favorite shape is and why. This will take about maybe like a 2-minute discussion, just to have the topic in their minds. And in order to not lose their attention, I will hand out a sheet where they will be writing down their answers and drawings. After this, I will explain to them that on the whiteboard, I will be going to list some attributes of the shape, and that they will have to guess what shape it is. And I will be letting them know that this worksheet will be returned to me at the end. I will begin with providing them with an easy example first. If the students have different answers, I will pick on a student who will have a correct answer and explain to the class why or how they got the answer. And that will probably help the students get another perspective of a student, of another one of their peers, and maybe have it more clear in their minds. And I would continue to do this for 8 different shapes, and after that I would finalize the lesson plan by handing out the exit ticket. And on the exit ticket, I will explain to them that it would be their turn to be the teacher, and they would have to list 3 different attributes of 3 shapes. And if they aren't able to explain or write down the attributes, they could go up to me and say them verbally to me. And this way, they are practicing on refining the standard by which they by refining the standard that they have already learned in the 1st grade, which is drawing shapes. My second lesson plan is titled All About Birds, and this is entering pre-K. The objectives for this is students will expand their knowledge on birds, and students will observe examples of what birds do. There are 3 standards supporting this, and they are: use the senses to explore and investigate the natural world, investigate animals and their offspring, and observe their world. The materials needed for this is a bird's nest, 2 to 3 books on birds, and objects such as rocks, feathers, and twigs. For this lesson, I would again have the students gather around me, and I would ask them questions about birds to just to get an understanding of what the children know first, kind of like a discussion, just like the other lesson plan. Then I would also read them 2 of the books about birds I brought in, which are factual books. And then slowly I would introduce the materials I brought with me, just like the rock, the twigs, and the feathers. And I would have them touch and feel and ask questions of like, what do they look like, or how do they feel, or if they have a smell. And lastly, I would bring in a last special object. I would tell them that it's a special object, and I would have them touch and feel it too, which is a bird's nest. And I would all have it at the end brought together to explain or talk about how it all relates together. And my 3rd lesson plan would be titled Let's Recycle. And in this one, the objective is students will be able to distinguish differences between recycling and trash. They will also be able to determine items which can be recycled and items that can't. The standards for this is sort and classify objects according to observable properties, and explain that many materials can be recycled and reused again, sometimes in different forms. The materials needed for this would be a smartboard and independent practice worksheets. For this, I will be explaining different ways that people can recycle. Like, for example, people can use reusable bags instead of plastic bags, like at grocery stores. I will also be explaining that objects can go into 2 different categories, which is trash and recycle. I would give examples of what kinds of items can be recycled, such as glass, plastic, and paper. Afterwards, I will turn on the smartboard and adjust it to the free draw canvas space, and I will insert 2 pictures of bins, which one would be labeled the trash and the other one would be labeled recycling. I would also insert pictures of different items that can be recycled or that are trash, and I would have the students go up to the board and sort them, so items can go into the trash or items can go into the recycle. Finally, after this class activity, students will independently complete a worksheet in which we'll assess what they have understood in this lesson. Moving on to evidence of skills. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I am unable to go into classrooms and teach one of my lesson plans. But what I have done is I have adapted one of my lesson plans, lesson plan number 3, that talks about recycling, and I have thought of a way to make it teachable through Zoom. So firstly, we would start off by having the same discussion about what is recycling and what items are recyclable, but instead of me teaching or talking about it, I would have the students talk amongst themselves, having an open discussion, and having them talk about what is recycling, what items are trash, what items are recyclable. And that opens up the opportunity for them to have that social interaction that they would have in a classroom. And it also keeps them awake during the Zooms, which is a hard thing to do now to keep students motivated during the Zooms. And I also would have would keep the activity of the bins. I would have that all pre-prepared, and I would also share screen on Zoom, and I would have the students talk about which items go into each category, and that would also open up a discussion. I thought this is a good idea because given the current situation, it's important for teachers to have that flexibility, and it was a good opportunity for me to practice implementing that adaptation to one of my lesson plans. To finalize my project, I would like to explain my evidence of developmental knowledge. I will explain the 2nd stage of Piaget's stages of cognitive development, which is the pre-operational stage. This stage usually ranges around ages 2 to 7 years. During this stage, children begin to think symbolically and learn to use words and pictures to represent objects. And children tend to be energetic and struggle to see things from perspective of others. While they're getting better with their language and thinking, they still tend to think things in a very concrete way. Because children at this age tend to be very egocentric to sum up this stage, it's important for teachers and parents to slowly teach their children to see perspectives of others. A great way to do this is by creating activities that do so. For example, one activity that can be used is that can be used in a classroom or at home could be role play. In a classroom, let's say in a preschool classroom, the teacher can have a basket full of different costumes, for example, scarves, handbags, hats, and aprons, and have the children dress up and pretend to be someone else. This way the children can conquer egocentrism. And basically, how it does that is that by having the students pretend that they are a different character helps them see things in a different perspective other than their own. Now, to answer some final questions, a skill that I have improved during this presentation is learning how to summarize and identify important information in a PowerPoint. And a challenge during this presentation would be trying to overcome the fear of public speaking. The fact that I was able to make it this far in the presentation is an achievement for myself. So this includes my presentation for this year's FCCLA Early Childhood Education project. Thank you for your time and attention.